Good evening. This is the after party to the Table Breakers, where we will be talking about super gluing that fucking table back together. Probably not, but it's a hell of a front line, right?
Yeah,
I am being joined tonight by Victor, who is becoming a close and dear friend to me. A little
yeah,
bit later on, we'll have Shadow. He is going to go make his bread and butter with his son and pump out another video, which I'm sure is going to be worth watching. If you haven't watched his videos, please do start. He is a really good guy. And I want to say thank you, Victor, for letting me be on the Dutch oven
yeah,
last Sunday.
yeah. You're welcome, man. If you just tell me, and you can be on anytime.
We'll just have a little bit of a scheduling issue because I think we do
Yeah,
ours at the same time as yours.
yeah.
But
But you can always swap in later. Like you don't have to be that right from the start. So
gotcha. I'm hoping we might get a few more people tonight. If not, just be a small, little, intimate evening with Victor and Shadow and me, and we'll talk about whatever the fuck we want to talk about.
yeah.
And then past the 30-second mark, and I don't get paid for this, so ha. Uh, so what you been up to since Sunday?
um, I've kind of been taking it easy because I scratched my eyeball on Monday, I believe.
Oh damn.
Uh, yeah, I scratched my cornea, so my vision has been like blurry all week. I actually had to back out of running D&D on Wednesday and last night because I won on virtual tabletops and I can barely see my screen right now. I have to like really squint and lean in. So I'm like, I'm not doing that.
Where what platform do you run on? Roll 20?
Yeah, Roll20. I'm pondering switching to Foundry at some point.
I would love to get a Bounce Foundry, but my laptop that I have says we do not support that. I'm like, well, I
Yeah,
guess Roll 20 is where I'm going to stay.
yeah.
Yay!
Well, the problem with Roll20 is that I have like everything on there. Like I bought like hundreds of euros worth of like supplements and stuff on there. So I'm also kind of like hesitant to just abandon it. But if it's like a game that I don't have on Roll20, like most of the stuff I have on Roll20 is like 5e. So I'll probably just continue running 5th edition on Roll20, and then any other game I'll do on Foundry.
I have a I have a group on Mondays. It's 6 people altogether though. No, 5 people because we had a guy had to bail out. But one Monday it'd be me DMing. The next Monday it's another guy DMing, and we just rotate between 3 DMs.
Yeah.
And we use Roll 20,
Yeah.
and we use Babylon. We use D&D Beyond basically because that's where you get your 5e stuff. Do I like it? No,
Yeah.
but it
It is
I
what it
don't.
is.
It is what it is. I don't like paying the IRS, but if I don't, I get in trouble.
Yeah.
Ask Willie Nelson.
Yeah.
So what's going on in your world? I mean, I'm always kind of interested about other countries. What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, right now here in America, we're either dealing with Sleepy Joe or the angry orange monkey.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I don't support either one of them. I think, I think they're both too old to be president. I
Yeah.
said this. I think there should be. You have to be 35. Hey, Al, if you want to jump in, the link is on top. I think you have to be 35 to become president. I think you can be like no older than like 65.
Yeah.
Because not everybody needs to run for president. Not everybody needs to be president. And let's put a cap on that age, and we won't get, people that really should just be out of politics.
People with dementia.
Yeah.
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 I'm actually not quite sure what's going on in Dutch politics because I barely watch the news anymore. So, and it's always some horseshit. Last I heard, the farmer stuff is going on. They were mad at some channel for saying the Dutch word for Negro at some TV channel.
Oh no!
So yeah, stuff like that, just the usual bullshit. And sup, Omanel?
Not much. Since you talked about politics, my son got kicked out of his house because he got too political. So
Oh
no!
Oh, he was being a little jerk, to be fair. So I'll have him for a while until his mother's ready to take him back. He's been
Yeah.
doing crap like that for years, and I like you got to be nice to your mom. And I let him. I have this opportunity, like whenever he complains, like you can say bad things about me, but I don't react like his mother does. So I'm like, this is gonna come and bite you. Well, it bit him this week, so now he's been trying to avoid his mother and getting ready to pack so he can stay with me for a while.
Yeah.
It happens that way, unfortunately. I mean,
Well, he's 13. That's going to happen. Everyone I talk to is like, yep, that happened to me, with my children around that time. So,
I was with my grandparents at that time, and I said some stupid shit. All kids say some stupid shit, but I'm telling my grandparents, "Oh, you can't tell me what to do. You're not my dad." When realistically, my grandpa was more of a dad to me than my bio dad was.
yeah.
So it sucks, and we all have to go through it in some way or the other. I mean, as my ex-wife would say, 16, no, was it 12 is the good age to move out of the house because you know everything and you're still young enough to know everything.
You know what? I did that one time when he decided that he didn't want to do any more schooling. I said, okay, we're obviously holding you back. We'll get you packed and ready to go and you can leave. And he's like, maybe I have some more things to learn. And it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know what it's like for girls at that age. Granted, I have a daughter who's now 12 years old and she's mouthy. But to be fair, she's only mouthy to me, and I kind of fostered that relationship with my daughter because I don't know why, I just have. And I mean, I appreciate sarcasm. I appreciate, and my daughter's witty as fuck. Given a chance, she'll make she'll catch you off guard, and at first you want to be pissed, but then you're laughing at it. So,
Oh, yeah. Oh, I mean, I enjoy it. The things that come out of kids' mouths, especially when they don't realize it. I used to aggravate my son just because of the hilarious things he would say when he was mad. So I'd just make him madder, and then I'd ask him questions. We got to burn down this door, Daddy, because it hit him in the head. We can't have any more doors. I said, well, how are we going to keep out the criminals? He's like, well, you'll just have to protect the front door. But we can't have doors anymore. It's like, okay, sure. He did all sorts of stuff like that.
fuck. Uh, I don't think I say to myself, I don't think I was a horrible teenager. Then if you ask my mom, like, yeah, you had some anger issues. I'm like, fuck off. But
Well, I think part of it comes down to with his mother is she's like, well, I wasn't like that at his age. I'm like, yeah, you're a girl. Okay, there's a difference between boys and girls. I remember doing crap like this, even if I wasn't as bad or something. I remember, because I got mad about having to go to church all the time, and I walked out one day, and I was only gone for like an hour and a half, and my father took all the stuff out of my room and put it on the front doorstep. And I don't mean he threw it out. I mean it was nice and neatly stacked, and I have a lot of crap. I was like, holy moly, that tells you just how angry he was, because that takes a lot of energy.
right.
He's like, well, you have a choice. You can go to church, or you can find a new place to stay. I went, well, okay.
What about you, Victor? What were you like as a kid?
Oh, I was probably an asshole as a teenager, I'm sure. I was as like a kid though, before that, I think I was pretty chill. I don't think my parents had much trouble with me.
Yeah, that's cool. There was something, there's always that bits of wisdom we get from our parents or grandparents or, from whoever in our family members or teachers that you don't think about until later in life. And I remember reading like about Hawkins and a few other people that I found to be extremely intelligent. And teachers are like, you ever notice these people are all miserable? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, that's the problem with intelligence. The more intelligent you are, the more that the world sucks. I'm like, yeah. And as a teenager, I'm like, well, the world does suck. Ha 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 ha. As an adult, I'm like, fuck, I must be fucking brilliant because that gotta be one miserable bastard.
You know what though is my 20s were pretty much wasted. That's the only way I can phrase it. And then, so I got my life on track in my 30s, and then I heard all these people going, "Oh, you know, I'm so old. I don't know what I'm gonna do." And I'm like, first off, you're younger than I am, and number two is, if you don't like where your life is, then do something to change it. And I said, if you can,
Yeah.
as long as you feel like you have the ability to change your life, your attitude tends to be more positive.
Oh,
But
yeah.
and I'm not saying everything's perfect. I'm not saying that people don't have things that suck, but that comes back to when I was 18 and when I was 19, I met that guy without any legs, and he's like, "Well, I lost my legs to gangrene."
Oh,
Oh
shit.
well, life happens. He was happier than I was, and I was like, um, "What the hell do I have to complain about? I'm in pretty much perfect health." So I always try. I hate saying it. I try looking at other people and seeing who has it worse in their attitude, and I'm going, what am I complaining about? You can always find something to complain about, but things can get worse. That's the other thing. Is like, okay, what am I going to do to prevent things from getting worse? But
I think the real trick is to find ways to make yourself happy. I mean, not amuse. I mean, because fuck, I amuse myself all the time, for better or worse. I amuse myself all the time. But actually, I think being genuinely happy is the hardest trick of them all.
you know
Because
what? Yeah, go ahead.
because you got marriage if you're married, you got kids if you got kids, you got all these things that are not stacked up against you, but can definitely weigh on you.
Well, you know what? That's true, but I guess I have a different attitude too. And I look at my son and I go, as long as I have something meaningful in my life, I have purpose. If I have purpose, I can get through the times I'm not happy. Um, but I think that that's the problem with a lot of people is you really have to have something that keeps you going even when things are tough. And for kids, that's pretty easy. It's like, well, I got to push through because I have my kid. I got
Right.
to do what's right for them. Uh, People who always chase happiness, they actually seem like some of the most unhappy people. Whenever they're not around, I'm like, well, for us, we're like, all right, we can bullshit. Let's go and do stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay, but
As
go ahead.
much as I hate being in front of a camera, I really do hate being in front of a camera. But I do this. I look forward to the conversations with the table breakers or hanging out with Max or these where I get to hang out with you guys. I
Yeah.
mean, I will not sacrifice, but I will put my uncomfortness of being in front of a camera to the side so I can do this. And trying to not find happiness, but it does bring me a little. It does make me happy, and that's I think why I continue doing it. I mean, this shit made me miserable. You could bet your ass I wouldn't be doing it.
It's also kind of addictive, though. Like I found anyway.
It can be, and it's like when I first started doing it, I ran out of hours like within the first week, and I'm like, how the fuck did I do that?
Yeah.
The other aspect though we have to look at this too is as we get older, it's harder to talk to people or set aside time, because of kids or other stuff. Uh, when I get my son, he'll probably be running around a little bit, but I still want to hang out with him, no matter how much of a pain he is. But well, hey, you know what? The suffering for my son. Hey, son, guess what? The pool's 60 degrees. Guess where we're going? Hey, son, the pool's 50 degrees. Guess where we're going? And he becomes so much nicer after he's frozen. Um, well, I think a lot of it is the kids have a lot of built up energy, and boy, you put them in a cold pool, and that energy dissipates pretty quickly. He comes back inside, his mood improves, his nervous energy is gone, and he calms down. Yes, and then he's a nice human being. Um,
I think being nice is overrated. I shouldn't say stuff like that.
well, you know what? I don't mind being nice, just don't take advantage of me.
Oh yeah, there is that.
I, I have a neighbor that does that. Like, okay, you're in a wheelchair. I'll help you out. But don't come over to me and bother me on my time because you didn't want to put the effort into doing something you can still do in your wheelchair. I like, but I need someone to help set my thermostat. You can set your own damn thermostat, Uh, she was, she was mad. Like, well, I need someone to change the battery in my, what is it called? The fire alarm. The smoke alarm.
Right. Yeah.
I was like, okay. I was cooking. I like, okay, I'll get it when I'm done cooking in about an hour or so. And then she's like, but it's beeping. And you know how annoying it is? It goes off every 3 minutes. I said, then you only have to listen to it 20 more times. and then she was mad. And then she came back about 15 minutes later. It's like, well, it wasn't the smoke alarm. And all I could think was, you should have known that before you even came over to me. Oh, no. Yeah, I don't like that. I'm not here to rescue you, okay? I'll help people out if they really need it, but I'm not going to be here to be taken advantage of. So.
I get that. I mean, I really do get that. There's a few people in my life I shouldn't, but I still bend over backwards for, and it just is what it is. But they're, people that are dear to me, but other people can go fucking take a walk. No, my daughter has watched some of these shows. It's like, Dad, you're so much nicer. I'm like, shut up. It's like, why don't we get that version of you? I'm like, because it's you. She says, oh, that makes sense.
My son, because I don't care, he's like, I don't want to do my homework. I said, well, why don't you write about how you have the meanest daddy in the world? Oh, I don't want to write about that. I said, well, then okay, stop complaining. Just do it. Like you get free shots. I'm giving you a free shot, and if you don't take them, that's on you. So.
My oldest stepson's, like I said before, Aspergian, and every once in a while, he's like, "I'm so angry," and he'll just do stuff, and he would growl, or at least he would try to growl, and I'm like, dude, don't do that. He's like, why not? I'm like, you sound like a what did I say? You sound like a constipated cow, and he did it again, and he stopped. And he, thought about it. He's like, oh, I do. And my ex-wife's like, you don't have to be an ass. I'm like, I'm not being an ass. I'm just being honest. Somebody needs to be honest with the kid.
Well, I think that a lot of times women think that being honest is being mean rather than saying, no, we're going to correct you by being honest with you. So, that's my feeling sometimes.
So I was watching the news because I was an idiot.
No, don't do that. Stop it.
Yeah.
I was watching the news. Well, the whole scenario with, what was it? Martha's Vineyard.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like, if all the police departments in the world, there was a Texas cop showing up, I'm like, that's suspect. I was not expecting Texas to be saying anything because it was Texas.
Oh, it's.
I don't know. It was just, like I said, caught me off guard.
Oh, everyone whines like, well, we have to do this. Well, why don't you do it? Well, I don't want to have to be responsible. Well, wait a minute. If it's okay for other people, why can't they do it to you?
Yeah.
That's what bothers me is this double standard hypocrisy.
Well, shit, it's been that way since day fucking 2.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm not disagreeing with that one, but it's I've never seen it exposed so readily nowadays. So, it's like.
I saw on Dutch TV recently. We've like the issues with the refugees here too, and there's some town that there's like 1,000 people, and they want to put like 300 refugees there, and the town is like no. So like one of the women from the town was like on some talk show, and like all these big wigs were basically just like lambasting her, calling her racist and like all this stuff. And then some guy was like, well, Amsterdam's also doing our part, like over here. We're like taking like 1,000 people, or like, oh no, he said like 10,000 people. And she's like, yeah, but you have like a population of 800,000. 10,000 on 800,000 is a lot different than 300 on 1,000. And then the guy just basically like, oh, well, now it's getting disgusting. And he just like cut off the conversation because he was getting owned.
This is why I bought some farmland and plan on moving out in the country at some point, just to get away. And we'll see. But I saw where they were doing all this stuff in the Netherlands for the farmers, and the plan is to basically steal their land and then to build this giant mega city. I said, well, wait a minute, how does that benefit?
Oh yeah, how does that like fix climate and nature and stuff like that?
Oh, I know. That's what really gets me. It's about money. It has nothing to do with the climate. And what was it? Is it Bjorn Lundberg? I can never remember where he's from. If you've ever heard of him,
who?
Bjorn Lundberg.
Sounds vaguely familiar.
His point was we could spend money much better than try to do all these climate policies to actually improve on people's lives, and would help more for climate. Why don't we put all this money into clean water? Oh no, we don't want to do that. And I say this as I just visited a solar farm today with 2,000 acres of solar panels.
Yeah.
And I asked, well, how many solar panels? 790,000 solar panels out there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah, and it's on good. Well, this isn't quite as good for farmland, but boy, they're putting it up a lot in perfectly good farmland. And I just went, it's one thing to put it in the desert where there's not much that can grow, and then the shade will help protect. But
that makes sense.
But so animals could stay under there. It would help. Some of the trees, stuff like that would grow underneath, and I'd be okay with it. But boy, when you take perfectly good farmland and be like, this is not good for us. So,
well, I don't know if Victor is aware of it, but Detroit, Michigan was known to have some of the best farmland in America. Detroit has failed as a city. It's basically belly it up. How many years ago?
Oh, it used to have 3.7 million people or something like that, and now it's like 700,000.
They can knock over some of these houses. I'm not saying it's not going to take some work, and I'm not going to say it's not going to take some money, but they can turn a lot of those houses where people are not living anymore and turn them back into farmland, and the soil is still good.
Did you hear that was actually part of the plan?
I didn't. No.
They've been talking about that for at least a decade, about making these giant green belts where they would go turn it back to farmland by knocking down those houses. But yeah, it's but Detroit used to be known as what, the Paris of the West, and look at how far it's dropped. I mean, and people act like, oh, this will never happen. I don't know. If you look at these big cities. Why would I want to live in a big city if it's all shut down and it's so commercialized I can't even go to talk to normal human beings? I don't.
Well, was it when I don't know if she still lives up there. My ex-wife's aunt lives in Detroit, so we went up to Detroit, and I'm like, I don't want to go to Detroit. But we went up to Detroit, and there's certain areas of it still fucking gorgeous, like the area that a lot of the Lebanese live in is still, pretty. They take care of their area, and I don't mean that to sound racist, but I'm just telling you the truth. That area is really nice, and we were starting to drive by some of where all the wealthy houses were, and all this. Then we get to this one area where it's like, well, none of the power is on. These people have no water here. People still live up in these board houses, and if it gets too cold, they'll set a house on fire to warm up the block. And I'm like, son of a bitch.
Once we lost Omenal, looks like.
And I I mean, I've seen most of I've seen the other countries. I've seen more of Europe than I have of America, which is sad. But
Yeah.
it's just Europe's easier to get through. I mean,
Yeah.
as weird as that sounds.
Oh no, definitely. I get you.
Yeah, sorry about.
Oh, you muted yourself.
Yeah, sorry,
Oh.
I meant to get the camera. But no, I sometimes the browser just locks up on me recently, so I'm just like, all right, gotta switch back.
Yeah, I mean, if I want to go anywhere in Europe, it's basically either a bus or a train. Well, mainly a train. That's how me and my grandparents got around. Once we got off the island, we just took a train to wherever we wanted to go. And I would not trade that for fucking anything. I'd love to go back to that, actually. I wish America went back to trains, to be honest. I know that's never going to happen.
Well, we have trains. I know because they stop like right in my little town here. But the problem is that it's more expensive than almost flying.
Oh, yeah. It's stupid. It's incredibly stupid how expensive it is. They don't go to half of the fucking places they used to. I mean,
where I am, I could literally get on, I think it's on the train, but like to go to, I forgot where it was. I have to almost go up to Chicago and then take another train like towards Denver. I'm like, shouldn't you just be able to go to like Kansas City and then go over? It's weird on how they do the connections. So, but I'll be honest, I like trains a lot better. I like the ability to sit down, walk around, actually sleep. If you get one of those nice cars.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I have nothing bad. I have nothing. I want a Greyhound bus. And let's put it this way, never again.
I've ridden a Greyhound twice in my life, and there was both because of MEPS.
Yeah, I just nope.
No, never, ever. Yeah, I used to ride the trains and stuff all through Germany, and I will say as much: the ICE train, those are nice. I know Victor knows what they're. I don't know if they were there for you, Conall, when you were out there.
If they were, I don't remember them. I just remember going on trains. I mean, let's say Harry Potter blew up in '96 and '97 with the books.
Yeah.
And when Harry Potter goes to school for the first go to school, they go onto a train. Now, as a small kid, hopping on a train, it was not the same, but it was the same.
Yeah.
It sparked some imagination, and it's a whole lot different getting on a train than, let's say, here in the States where my name is Chevy Chase and we're going to have the family vacation.
Yeah.
Well, and to be fair, also Europe's a lot more densely packed, so it makes more sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I went to college at College Station, and so it's not that we didn't have a train station go through there. Where I live now, there's a train station right by work. We could get one of the, into one of the like the Amtrak cars or whatever. But I would prefer it myself over driving or anything else, but not if it's taking me all these weird directions. Why do I have to go to Chicago? I think it was Chicago if I want to go to Denver. Should I just be able to go up to like Colorado and then make a left? Something like that.
Yeah, no, I mean, everything has its faults. I will never say it doesn't. It's just, there's certain things I just miss, and trains kind of being one of them. I love to take my daughter on a train so she can see what that's like. All I got to worry about is making sure, I have a ticket, we're there on time, and the rest of the time, everything else except for food is taken care of. I don't have to stop, worry about gas, and so forth and so on.
Yeah, but the trains, a lot of them will have or at least I used to would have a food car. So if you wanted to sit and eat, that made it really nice too, which was a lot nicer than flying as well, because you got to pick up and move. You got to talk. They would serve you food. We could actually like sit and actually eat without like killing someone with your elbows.
Oh yeah. I mean, unless I lose 100 pounds, I don't see myself going on to another airplane anytime soon, because my ass cheek is not worth a second seat.
Oh yeah, and
I just, fuck that and fuck them. So I don't know. It's just I travel. I go down to Tennessee. I was just for my birthday. I went down. I rode with a friend down to Tennessee in a car, and I'm thinking to myself, this would be a great trip if this was a train, because we could just sit back and relax and bullshit for X amount of hours. Instead of, hey, is that my exit? Shit, did I miss my exit? We're gonna have to stop for gas. Hey, you know.
I now just put it fair as I rode 5 days with my son in the back seat. So
Man,
and
I was,
to be fair, we didn't rush or anything. We
yeah,
took our time. We stopped. We stopped about every hour because he has to go pee, which is good for me. I'd fill up on gas. We would, get some food. So we stopped at a lot of mom and pop diners all the way up and on the way back, and we tried different foods, stuff like that. No, I mean he actually enjoys that aspect because we're not in a rush. We'll take our time. Uh, I'm not that strapped for money, which helped, even though it was pretty expensive when you look at it. Uh,
oh yeah, because gas prices are not the same in every state.
well, this is when they were at the high. This is when they were like $4.50 to $5 a gallon. So yeah, it added up a lot compared to the year before when it was only like, when it was only like $2 or $3. So it's like, what in the world? Um,
Yeah,
yeah, it was a big, there was a big aspect for that, but and I up north they'll have the non-ethanol gas, and boy, that makes a big difference. Huge difference, about 10 to 20% on gas mileage.
Yeah.
So I hate the fact that they put ethanol in gas for that very reason.
I live right next to an ethanol plant. Oh my god, I want to kill myself during the summers. It's like, I know that smell. That's the smell of depression.
I say this to someone that's probably going to grow corn next year, that will actually benefit from the ethanol mandate. I would still rather that corn go to food and not to
Yeah.
gas.
Yeah. I was blessed by giving a car earlier this month, and I haven't had a car in almost like 2 years. So I didn't have to. This whole past summer with the high gas prices, everybody else was bitching about gas. I'm like, not my problem. But I wasn't being rude about it. It's just very much not my problem. Now I have a car. I'm like, fuck. Thank you. Thank you so much. But there's like, well, do you want the car or not? I'm like, yeah, I'll fucking take a car because I'm not an idiot. Wait, maybe I am. But it is what it is. I mean, having a car, grown up responsibilities involves me having a car. I get that. That's part of being a grown up. I don't live in a small town where I can just hop on my bike or do what Shadow does. I need a car. It's just fuck. Being a grown up sucks.
I bought an electric scooter recently.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the benefit of living in the Netherlands. I don't really need a car. I just bought an electric scooter.
See, when I was living up in Chicago, I didn't need a car.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You don't need a car in Chicago unless you want to buy a lot of groceries.
Right. I just best thing about living in Chicago, everything I want to do, I can either get on a bus because the buses up there. I don't know if they still do, but a lot of the buses up there ran for 24 hours. They were always going.
And, well, I took the train into work, so yeah, I fully agree with you on that.
And I know other major cities are the same way. Like New York, you don't need a car, or and that's some of the benefits of these larger cities, or even smaller towns. You don't need a car because, but if I ever end up in a small town, I might just disappear into a cornfield and not come out.
Well, I mean, I live in a relatively small town. I mean, I still drive into work, also because but To be fair on it, even in Chicago, I hated to drive.
Oh,
So
yeah.
if I had so like when I was going out with that Romanian lady, I was like, go pick me up at this time, you know. So she drove everywhere because she liked to drive.
Oh,
So
I love to drive. Don't get me wrong. I love to drive. If my profession of choice doesn't work out, I will become an Uber driver. I don't care. I love to drive. Which even now Uber driving is kind of sketchy. Uh,
well, you know what? Be a truck driver. Truck drivers are pretty good.
yeah, I'm fat enough. No, but you are right. And James, jump into the chat, please, if you want to. The link is on the top of the chat if it's still there. If not, let me know and I'll put it there. I just love to drive. I'll take back roads in Illinois so I don't have to look at fucking corn.
Yeah,
I
I
thought
share
those
my
were
screen real
back
quick.
roads in Illinois.
That's the moped I got, but mine's like all matte black,
Okay.
but it's electrical.
Yeah, as soon as you said that, somebody in chat kind of beat me to it, but I'm like thinking Vespa.
Yeah.
What was that? Oh God, what was the old black and white movie? Holiday in Rome.
I know the one with Audrey Hepburn.
Yeah, it made Vespas really fucking popular there for a while.
Yeah.
Roman Holiday or some variation of that. Oh my God, I bring up that movie to some of my friends. I actually most people my age like, what movie are you talking about? I'm like, it was a black and white. What's that? Roman Holiday, yeah. So I was like, y'all are killing me. So I don't. Victor, are you? No, you have your own stream that's coming Sunday. So this coming Sunday, are you ready to talk about Blade Runner?
Oh, I finished watching it. Yeah, I'm ready to talk about Blade Runner.
I I watched it. I had to watch it twice because
I'm sorry.
in the off chance I missed something. I know there was. I'm just glad there was not a booking assignment to go with this watching of the movie because I'm fuck.
Here's the thing. I look at Blade Runner. Blade Runner really set the atmosphere for every cyberpunk game that came out.
Okay, I can see that.
If you look at Shadowrun, then if you watch the original theatrical version, they talk about city speak. That is used in Shadowrun. The whole idea of the look and everything else, you can really feel it.
Right.
But let's be honest, the movie is pretty damn boring. It's a really slow movie that really relies on its visuals more than anything else.
I mean, I'm not comparing it to George R. Martin's Game of Thrones, but I am. Because it just feels like it takes forever to get somewhere.
If you have HBO Max, and I don't know if you do, Connell, go watch Black Lotus on the Adult Swim part.
Oh yeah,
and that I highly recommend because that I think, and to be fair, 2049 is pretty boring, but it's really slow as well. Visually, it's very pretty, but the Black Lotus I think deals a lot better with some of the issues, and the fights are a lot better too.
Well, it kills me. Well, as you guys know, I'm colorblind, right?
Mm-hmm.
So some of these visuals, everybody's like, "What was that movie?" Come on, Avengers, Avatar.
Oh yeah,
Avatar came out with the blue people. Well, I think they're blue.
Yep.
And everybody's like, "Oh my god, the scenery is so gorgeous!" I'm just looking at us. I apparently not getting the same effect you guys are getting because I'm ready to go. We gotta stay because how beautiful the leaves look. I'm like, if you say so.
I mean, visually, Avatar was very pretty. But I'll be honest, I went in and saw it in the 3D, and then I bought the 2D version, and I like the 2D better because when I wear those 3D glasses, it makes everything darker, and I like the vibrancy of the colors and how they pop. And if I have to wear the 3D glasses, it mutes a lot of the the visual. So I don't like the 3D for that reason. I really like something that's brightly colored, that's not oversaturated.
Actually, on my birthday, one of my friends, who is also slightly colorblind, had a pair of these glasses that are supposed to help colorblind people see colors.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I put them on. I saw colors for the first time in my not the first time, but first time in a very, very long time. Right.
Mm-hmm.
The 2 days after, I had a raging headache.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
I'm like, never again. This is my birthday. I'm staying drunk, so the headache is that, not as on a back burner as much as it was. I'm like, yep, never putting those bastards on. It's like, what was it like to see color? I'm like, it was awesome, but the juice is just not worth the squeeze.
Oh well, yeah, because your brain has to try processing it, and boy, it's like trying to learn another language when you're completely oversaturated. You get a bad headache for it.
Yeah, it took me about. Yeah, it sucked. So much. I'm like, I'm not going to even talk to my doctors about it. I'm like, nope, I'm good. Oh, after a bit of time, you'll get used to it. I'm like, I don't have that much Advil.
Yeah, exactly. It's I understand that. The other thing is, I noticed, not that anyone takes it, but I've, whenever I've, like, if my joints are inflamed, I found out that if I use medical leeches, it helps better than taking any drug for reducing the swelling. But it's funny because people are like, but it's just like whenever I hear people talk about, leeches. The reason they don't use leeches anymore is because they almost went extinct. And then people version. But I will say this much. I'm not saying all the other stuff, but boy, if you have like a swollen ankle or something, it will do more to bring that swelling down than anything, and it'll help you fast.
That makes sense in the pretense that they have something in their saliva that breaks down. Yeah, okay, I can see it.
Yeah, I mean it makes sense, but most people have to get over the aversion. So,
no. I've been in a few lakes here in America, especially in Missouri, where I came out and I had a clinger on. I'm like, son of a bitch. So I kind of just got over it. But I get what you're saying. No, if they want leeches, if they ever run out of leeches, go to this lake in Slippery Rock, Pennsylvania. The whole lake basically been told it's a campground, and everybody goes there. Basically, been told stay out of the lake, or you come back just basically covered in leeches.
Oh wow!
And I'm like, that sucks.
Well, the problem I had was getting the leeches to bite because they weren't that hungry. So I was like, come on, I need you now. Just suck the blood. Come on, go do it.
I don't know. I mean, I have a hard time having, I'm the asshole that the mosquitoes don't like. So, I mean, I already have, which I'm grateful, don't get me wrong, but I'm out camping because everybody's like, I'm getting eaten by mosquitoes. Really? I don't think those are that bad. Go fuck yourself. I'm like, okay.
That's pretty funny.
But, then my friend Finn was like, it's because his blood is more alcohol than it is anything else. I'm like, that might be true.
Do you remember the Family Guy when he's talking about Jesus, and he says, man, this guy must have been wasted all the time. Like,
good, yeah. Yeah, the whole turning wine into water. I mean, water into wine, yeah.
Yes.
The wedding party trick. Oh man, I wish I did on YouTube. I really did, but I had this blowout argument with this guy for like 2 hours about the new fucking Little Mermaid movie.
Yeah,
and he accused me of being woke, which I think is funny. I will admit I'm more lenient towards things than other people are.
It doesn't bother me that they did the whole thing. But what I think bothers me is why retell that whole story? You already have a great Little Mermaid story. Why don't you do one somewhere else? Make it a bit different, and make it set. If you really are worried about it, make it set in South America, over by Brazil during Carnival.
Oh yeah, well, the Little Mermaid is funny. Is that Little Mermaid, is coming out, and people are having issues with that. And then there's the Black Panther movie coming out, and they made Nimoy Aztec or something of that part of the world. Which
Yeah.
once again, I don't care, whatever. It's a movie. And so I'm like, what if they did that with Little Mermaid? What if they also, link up the Little Mermaid to the MCU? Would people still bitch? Yes, but I would giggle. But I'm like, yeah, this guy's yelling at me. He's like, what kind of father would let his daughters watch this? I'm like, first of all, leave my daughter's name out of your mouth, or I will, I will Will Smith you.
Oh, I have a good story about that. Is years ago, this is when Basic Instinct came out. And
yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen that movie.
Okay, so I was 18 years old. My parents had heard all about this. They were coming back from Germany to come visit me. So we were going through and I had just seen it. They're like, "Hey, let's go see Basic Instinct. We've heard a lot about this movie." And I went, "Are you sure you want to see this with me?" And they're like, Yeah, let's go see it. I was like, all right. Anyway, this guy was complaining that they weren't producing any more family-made films. He says, there aren't films you can go see with your family anymore, like Basic Instinct. I said, I saw that with my family just a couple of weeks ago. But yes, I understand what he meant, but he did not like that answer.
Oh,
do it with your parents.
Yeah, it's just like, it came, I was like, well, she's black. I'm like, please tell me, what does the race of mermaids supposed to look like?
I don't care about the race of mermaids. I care about the intent behind it. It's part of the culture war, and I'm tired of that whole fucking thing. Like, I don't care about this movie in particular. I just care about the people that are doing it for a very specific reason.
I'm not going to argue with that one. I completely agree. I would just argue on the fact of the movie, nothing else.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but it was written by one of your countrymen?
No, he was Swedish, I believe.
Was he Swedish or from Denmark?
Yeah, Danish or Swedish. Like one of those up there, like one of those Bjork.
Yeah.
But I'm like, so let's do this movie. And he's like, well, I think they should do the movie the way the book was. I'm like, have you ever read the book? He's like, no, but Disney did it back. And I'm like, listen, at the end of the novel, hey Jack, I'll get to you really quick. But I'm like, at the end of the book, she doesn't get what she wants, and she turns into a bunch of bubbles and slides. That's how the book ends. He's like, no, it's not, because Disney wouldn't do that. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
Was
talking about Shrek?
It was Hans Christian Andersen or something like that?
Yeah.
Well, Elle brought something up earlier. I think it was Elle. It was pretty funny. They've been showing like these clips of of black girls watching the trailer and being like, "Oh, finally a little mermaid that looks like me." And then some black mom made like a video of her little girl like watching the trailer, and like the girl's like, "That's not Ariel." And the mom's like, "Why not?" And she's like, "Ariel's white. She's not brown." So like, it's not universal that little black girls are like into this. Like there's even some little black girls that are like, yeah, no, this isn't white. Like, Ariel's white. Like, why are you race swapping this shit?
Well, speaking of which, I have to bring this up. Well, I got so pissed off when I watched The Last Samurai. Stop bringing in American actors to do Japanese parts or anything. I don't care about the American that goes off into Japan. You have Shogun. That's good.
He wasn't the Last Samurai, though.
Well, he wasn't the Last Samurai, but he should have been the main character. I cared about I cared about the Last Samurai. I'm like, damn it. I watched Kurosawa. Well, my whole thing is I am tired of them having to put in an Anglo actor into whatever they're doing for an East Asian. Look, I don't need that. I would rather watch the I forgot what the actor's name is. He speaks perfectly good
Ken
English.
Watanabe.
Yeah, exactly. He does a good job. I don't need him to do all the other crap.
I think it's a good movie. I like that movie. And people assume that Tom Cruise was meant to be the Last Samurai. It's like, no, Ken Watanabe was the Last Samurai.
I just hadn't.
Plus, Well, okay. Well, it's also not like this is set in like the 1300s, like where white people in Japan were where. This is like literally 1861 or something. This like actually happened. They literally brought in like advisors from the West to like update the military and stuff like that. So it's not like, out of the realm of like realism and possibility that like a white guy shows up and fucking, does some shit in Japan. So at least there's that.
Yeah, but if I'm watching a film that's supposed to be about Asian, I don't care about the white guy. It's just like watching the Seven Samurai. I want to watch the Seven Samurai. I want to watch all this other stuff.
Well, what did you think of 47 Ronin?
Oh,
Did you have the same problem?
I don't even remember watching. All I saw was Keanu Reeves. I went, damn it! I would rather watch a Akira Kurosawa film.
Okay, I was just curious if you had the same problem because I actually like the 47 Ronin. Granted, it's not the best as it was. I mean, it was not as good as the first time around, but I didn't mind it. I think I just saw it. I don't even know why. I think I got dragged to go see it. It was like that or something else. I got dragged to go watch, but I actually enjoyed it. But the whole Tom Cruise movie, though, here's the way the whole Tom Cruise, The Last Samurai, was there is a white guy in that movie I really did enjoy. His name is Billy Connolly. If you don't know who he is, please look him up. He is a Scottish comedian. He is retired because I think he has Parkinson's or something like that. But the guy is fucking hilarious. And the other reason why I really do actually kind of like Last Samurai is if you take out all the people, all the actors and everything, and just look at the fucking scenery, it is absolutely fucking gorgeous.
I don't mind The Last Samurai because it's telling a specific story. It's telling it from a Western perspective who doesn't know what the Japanese are like, and he's like learning. You're learning basically about the samurai through Tom Cruise. And like I said, at least it's not like a race swap where it's like, oh, this is Musashi and he's fucking Tom Cruise in like 1500. So like I don't mind it that much. I mean, there's Westerns. There's like what's that movie, Red Sun, where it's like the guy that played Yojimbo when he ends up in the Old West and stuff. Like that's a great movie too. So,
well, we've been was it culture swapping with that one when the Hunt for Red October, where it should have been a Russian, but we got we got Sean Connery instead.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's other movies where they picked certain actors to play certain roles that were not from that culture. But you can't tell the difference anyways. It's like, let's say 1300. There's a big difference between a Spaniard, I think he's Spanish, Antonio Banderas, or how do you say his last name?
The 13th Warrior, yeah.
Yeah, and a Muslim. There's a huge difference, but no one bat an eye.
Well, but to be fair on that, if you look at the time frame, that's about when a lot of them were coming into Spain as well. I mean, if you look at Charlemagne was fighting the Muslims off in that area as well. But
also to be fair, we're referencing movies from like the mid to late 90s. Yeah. They weren't that concerned about that shit back then.
Well, has anyone watched? Which I always loved was the if we're going to talk about for the 1960s, go look at Lawrence of Arabia.
Oh God, yeah. No, I'm right there with you.
But I've been to the Middle East. Some of these people they call brown are pale white. I'm like, you don't know what the hell you're dealing with. It's just like when I went to Afghanistan. They pretend that they're all from like the southern part, which is mostly where they imported a lot of the black slaves into. And even the Iraqis would talk about that. But I said, it's not. It's a crossroads. So you can get a bunch of different groups. And I saw Afghans with really light green eyes and stuff like this, and you get some of them look Chinese. It's a bunch of mixtures, and they all stay in their own little subgroups, and that's sometimes how you would identify them ethnically on which languages they spoke. Was okay. This guy was based off of the Huns. That's where that's where they came in and settled, and since they all married they stay within their culture. They look different and speak a different language than this group over here, than this group over here. But yeah, I always thought it was funny. Is looking at it, well, this guy has perfectly deep green eyes or deep blue eyes, And the same thing applies. Like anyone that's been to Turkey, they're not, that the people have a misconception unless you go into certain regions where there is no cross influence, like sub-Saharan Africa,
Right.
or you go to Scandinavia. You don't get a lot of that cross-cultural aspect. But even whenever you go into, what did they do with the DNA? They did a DNA test showing that there was a group of people that they believe came from Iberia around the time of Christ over into South America, and they have blonde hair.
Yeah.
And so this whole idea that, when we talk about the Americas, they go, oh, well, what was it? Leif Erikson, he's the one that found the Americas. Like, well, obviously someone knew about it because the Iberians had traveled over there 2,000 years, 2,000 years ago. And then we have other groups that it looks like, if anyone reads Graham Hancock sometimes, where they're doing the DNA test, it appears that there may have actually been Polynesians that came in about 12,000 years ago. And they're just a little subset. And now my friends who are archaeologists say they really do believe that the Americas was populated at different times by different groups from different continents.
Well, the Native Americans, they say they're like Chinese, basically. They're like proto-Chinese.
They came over from the land bridge between Alaska and Russia. Yeah, I've heard that for years.
Well, yeah, but
they went from Siberia across the Bering Strait, became into Canada, and then went down to America, Mexico, and that's why in the north you have the Inuit, which are more directly related to Siberians, and then the more south you go, the darker you go, the hotter you go, and then it goes more into like stereotypical Indian, Mesoamerican type stuff.
Yeah, but they're talking about that. It looks like they may have had groups come across from Europe thousands of years ago. We're talking before that, during the Ice Age. We're talking about Polynesians, so Oceanics, coming in from before the Ice Age, or not before, but before the end of the Ice Age, to the Pleistocene. It's not as linear as everyone makes it out to be. It looks like there were multiple groups coming across at different points and times, and it's not just by the Bering Land Strait. That's the misconception.
Yeah,
well,
one specific place. I mean, there's nothing stopping. I mean, I suppose the large sea, that is the shortest area that they could go from, but there's nothing other than distance stopping them, and it's been proven through very weird means, but it's still been proven that with the technology at the time, you could have gone on a raft from Africa to the New World, and you could have survived.
Oh, and who did that?
Entirely frozen.
It was Thor Heyerdahl, and they did not like him because he was disproving. And this is what I like about experimental archaeologists. But it looks like if you actually go back,
the certain raft experiment, not that one, though. That one.
I think that he may have done across the Pacific though, on the Kon-Tiki. I know. And it looks like there was trade in Africa during the Egyptian times. But if you go way far back, and this is what they really don't want to talk about, go look at what their point of Quetzalcoatl comes down to. White men with beards and like blue eyes. So they had red beards. That's not something you normally see in the in the groups down there. So it's interesting, but I also like the idea that we are more interconnected than we like to believe. And a lot of that was probably disrupted during the great melting of the Ice Age. And that's where we lost a lot of our own technology. Now, and we know that they were pretty advanced back then. Even one of my friends who is the archaeologist talks about Minos and Gnosis. He says that goes back 8,000 plus years ago. But if you keep on hearing everyone, they act like civilization only started like 3,500 years ago. He's like, no, they had aqueducts 8,000 years ago. So it pushes our history a lot further back than people want to talk about.
Well, yeah, because
people like to think that our ancestors, even like 1,000 years ago, were really dumb. When not only is that not the case, but in a lot of times they not only did they have technology, which we assumed only came about much later, but one, they were arguably smarter than us now, but more importantly, they had all this stuff that we wouldn't even imagine that they could have had. And yes, most of it was lost or just assumed to have happened later, but it still did all happen.
Fucking destroyed because of one religion or the other because it looked like witchcraft or whatever. Fuck.
You
But
know,
Well, I'm
there's
actually referring to natural means of them being destroyed. The Ice
Well,
Age,
uh,
natural disasters.
Well,
well, I
Homo
mean,
sapiens is like what 200,000 years old, but and like for all that time we had the same brain capacity, we have like the same everything basically. We haven't evolved that much in 200,000 years, but somehow we only started developing stuff the last 800 or the 8,000 years, and
Well,
like the 190,000 years before that, we just like sat around the fire wearing furs and did nothing. Okay,
yeah.
like yeah,
Actually,
Had
staying,
more stuff than that.
yeah,
Yeah, you're entirely right.
yeah.
staying in one place though is still also a fairly new thing when it comes to us as a species, because we used to, we don't like this anywhere, or it doesn't, this area doesn't work for us anymore, and large groups would just pack up and move over and over. We used, just staying in one fucking place 4, 5, 6 generations it's a new phenomenon that we've just kind of stuck with.
well,
Which,
so again, my friend that's an
Well, some
archaeologist is
Hold on,
talking
Jack.
about.
the tribe.
Well, my friend who was talking about that the Cato, and they're going from East Texas all the way over into the Panhandle, and it looks like they did this migration very commonly, and so they're talking of it. And when you look at it, that's 500 or 600 miles one way, and they would do that almost every year, and you're just like, that's a lot, and this
that's
is
a haul.
and this is a society that they don't have. And we're talking, this is pre-Columbian time, so this is before Columbus, so there were no horses at the time, and they were traveling back and forth, on foot effectively, because they didn't have any pack animals. And he says they're trying to find out more information about that, but he said, yeah, it's a lot more complicated than people want to talk about. So,
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but there was a subspecies of horses here in America a long ass time ago. Then they died off. Then the horses that we know now are basically what the Spanish brought.
yeah. So what happened was almost all domesticated horses are from the Iberian Peninsula.
Right.
So that's
Yeah.
that's the Spanish area. But
Native Americans didn't even know how to ride horses until like they saw the Spanish doing it. So yeah.
well,
Yeah,
But what I mean is that they had small horses, and they died out in the Americas along with camels and several other animals, including the cheetah, and but they were domesticated in what it appears to be in Iberia, which is modern day Spain, and then they traveled out from there.
Yeah.
And that was probably like 7,000 or 8,000 years ago, I think.
I think it's all interesting. I mean,
America.
I was about to say, I
They
just
all
think it's
died.
yeah, I think all of it's just history. I mean, we can argue about, anything. Realistically, we all have, if I take one point, Victor could take another point, and so forth and so on. But when you come down to it, there are some basic fucking truths. The human brain has not changed since the get-go. The Romans had the ability to print word on paper. They just did not know how to do it. All the technology was already fucking there.
Oh, go look at Archimedes and the stuff that he was supposed to have done.
Oh yeah.
And they're like, well, we can't do that nowadays. Or this is what gets me about it, and is the astronomy and astrology. They had stuff going back, and it appears that they had the stars mapped out every 25,000 years, which is a whole precession. So it goes through all the constellations as, the Earth wobbles.
Right.
So that's why whenever we talk about the age of Aquarius, it's generally which direction is the North Pole pointing. Anyway, they were doing that. And I said, well, if they can measure this out and it moves like 1 degree every 72 years or so, I said, that's one lifetime. And yet they measured it enough that they could predict the movements. And we're talking, this isn't just like one, this is like a lot of them. So my gut feeling is that we are far more interconnected, and then we had a great cataclysm, which there's evidence that we did have a great cataclysm, and we lost a lot of the stories and everything during that cataclysm. and so that's where everything got split apart. It's interesting. There's a book by, well, he does several of them, by Dave Matheson, where he talks about, he starts relating the stories to the stars, and it's compelling. I'm not sure if I believe it, but it's a compelling argument that many of the stories, including in the Bible, are relating to celestial points in the sky. And
Well,
I mean, I'm a firm believer that the reason why so many stories that have been told for so long happened, and why they all line up almost exactly the same way, is for the specific reason that they did actually happen. But
Well-
there's a lot of legends about like the Great Flood and all sorts of cataclysms and Atlantis and all sorts of shit, and like they have to have come from somewhere. So
and I prove a point.
Say it again, Jack.
Wasn't Atlantis originally conceived of as an idea just to prove a point?
no, Atlantis was defined as a place that was west of the Pillars of Hercules. Yeah, so we should put it right about the Azure Islands. And it really, what it's
No, I'm
point
not talking
was-
about the area or the idea of a city. I mean the specifics of it were.
Sorry, Jack, you're breaking up sometimes. Say it again.
I'm not referring to the general idea of where and what Atlantis was. I'm more specifically talking about the specifics of what happened to it. Most of the old ideas we get from it weren't those originally by Greek philosophers to like prove political points and social
No,
points?
it was for the Egyptians. It was the Egyptians said that
Ah,
we come from an older civilization, and what it was really referring to is if you time it, and Randall Carlson likes to go into a lot of this stuff, which is what I listen to. If you really want to listen to like 20 hours, I highly recommend if you enjoy it. But he was going over talking about it. It times up right at the Younger Dryas, which is when we had these massive meltwater pulses that raised the sea level like 100 feet within weeks.
Huh.
It's right around that time frame.
Gotcha.
And see, a lot of people have been trying to dismiss it, but boy, when you look at it, it lines up right there. And I have seen some of the stuff, and I've been to the areas where they do have these massive floods, and we're talking floods that are, we think, oh, it's big. No, I'm talking about floods literally 2,000 feet high.
Oh wow.
And I've been out there. Jack, if you ever have a chance to go with your father, go up towards the Washington State, and in a part of and go look up the Missoula Floods. Once you go down that rabbit hole, you start saying something's not right to what they're saying. But yeah, the Missoula Floods were 2,000 feet tall, and they were I've been out there. You can see it where it scours. It's massive, and you go, okay. And we do have proof that there was a big meltwater pulse about 14,000 something years ago, and then there was another one about 11,600 years ago. And Randall Carlson's working theory right now is that it looks like a comet may have hit the atmosphere and hit several points on the northern hemisphere, going from Canada all the way over to possibly Syria.
Okay.
And when you start looking at it, it's like, well, what killed off all of these animals so suddenly at the end of the Pleistocene? They've always blamed human beings, but even human beings got wiped out for hundreds of years in North America. So it's basically most of the mammals that were over 55 kilograms disappeared for about 600 years. It's a weird thing that goes on, and once you start seeing it, you're like, was there a giant flood here? Was there a giant flood there? And when I say giant floods, we're talking literally Noah's Ark style floods, not the normal stuff. And to be fair, if you're melting 2 miles of ice within seconds, you can understand where that's all coming from.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, it's a fun. And I'm not saying that they don't use that, just like we don't use modern stuff today. Every time that there's a heat wave, oh, it's climate change. It's because we're doing this. I'm not saying that it isn't used for that aspect, but usually there's that's why there are these giant flood stories throughout our history from like every civilization. and everyone's like, "Oh, those are just metaphors." I'll tell you this much: I've been over to the Buffalo Preserve, and you look down, and if you survive that, one is there was mud everywhere. There were icebergs. It was, and I said, even if you're an atheist, to live through that and to survive, and you're standing on the top of this one area, and probably rain's falling down the entire time, and you're just going through, you would say, God has punished us for what was, and we are the sole survivors, and we will try to remember God and do right from now on. I mean, and there's all these histories talking about how man was impure or whatever. Yeah. And it's interesting listening to it. And if you listen to the Tunguska, are you familiar with Tunguska there, Connell?
I think so. Yeah, the name sounds familiar.
It was
Yeah, it sounds vaguely familiar, but not. I can't exactly tell what it was.
It was a meteorite that hit in like 1906 over in Russia.
Yep. In
Oh yeah,
Siberia.
yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yep.
Well, they have some of the
This
reindeer
one.
herders, and they're describing it, and some of those things are like, it sounds like Sodom and Gomorrah from the Bible on how
Oh,
some
wow.
of the descriptions. And what's interesting is we're talking about that, but I just saw in the past couple of years, it looks like there may have been another one that was at the end of the Bronze Age collapse, which was about 1900 BC. It was somewhere around there. Anyway, it looks like there may have been a meteor strike there in the Middle East as well. And it times up right about the same time that the Bronze Age collapse happened. So there's a lot of weird things that go on once you start bringing celestial events. And you're like, oh, holy crap. And that's what I know you did a table breakers on this with the, natural calamities. Once you go down that rabbit hole, you're like, I have to add this to my game somewhere.
Oh yeah, no joke. I mean, I'm doing for a bunch of women. I'm running I think it's funny. Sorry, ADD kicked in there for a second. I'm running a fully female group that wants to, basically want to play a Greek mythology, and I'm like, I can make this work. So what I'm going to say. So I've been thinking about doing Pompeii.
Well, you have Pompeii, but what you might want to look at what happened to Midos, Crete, that area where they had the or Santorini. I think it's Santorini, the one that had the giant volcano that exploded about 4,000 years ago and took out the whole island.
Okay.
Yeah, go look that one up. That one's a lot of fun. I mean, I'm saying you have something that's like Pompeii, but it's even bigger.
Oh God, yeah. Okay.
And they found stuff, but basically the middle of the island is completely blown out because it's formed the caldera. But they find relics on the outside of it where it was where it didn't sink. So that's a lot of fun.
I've always. Oh, sorry again.
No, go for it.
I was gonna say I've always wanted to run a D&D campaign that's like D&D meets Waterworld. So like something made the sea levels rise like after like some calamity, and it's like a couple hundred years later, and like all these races now have to deal with land being scarce, and everyone's seafaring all of a sudden and stuff like that. I think it'd be fun.
Can I play aquatic elf?
You know what I want to do though is I want to take the Conan game and set it before the fall of Atlantis, like a couple years.
Yeah.
And then have the players see this comet as it's coming. And, I won't let it hit the first time, but I'll have it when it comes back around. And so, and you just slowly clock off, you slowly do it and then let them survive the cataclysm. And, they basically go from what we'll jokingly call a high technology world to basically something that's almost nothing.
That would be interesting. I know this is gonna. I'm not trying to pick fun at Shadows in chat, but between Conan and Cole the Conqueror, I think I like Cole a little bit better.
I like the timeline of Cole better, but to be fair, he wrote Cole first, and as he improved his writing, then he went over to Conan. It's hard to. that's one of the things I have to look at is where were you in your writing stage? I can't let because hopefully you improve. And to be fair, unfortunately, he shot himself when he was 30. Think of all the really cool stuff he could have done if he lived to 50.
Oh God, yeah. No, I completely understand. I mean, somebody introduced me to George R. Martin's Game of Thrones when I was like I don't want to say teenager, but I was still young when the first book came out, right? And I read it, and I read all the one up to Dance of Dragons, and I've been waiting almost 20. It feels I'm sure it hasn't been this long, but it feels like I've been waiting almost 20 years for the next book to come out. And if you haven't read any of them, I recommend you and Victor, if given a chance, to read any of the Jim Butcher Dresden Files.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I've read a bunch.
They are quite literally my favorite novel set right now. We were reviewing them on my Sunday show, and hopefully going to get back to it. Just life has happened. We haven't been able to get back to it as of yet. But I think the Dresden Files, where you're saying where the writer begins and where he is now, I think Jim Butcher is very much a good example of a very good example of that, because his first book, Stormfront, man, as much as I love it, it's a rough read, and so is the next couple books. But if you can just get past those two, I want to say into Summer Night, it really picks up. He really hits his groove.
If you want a series that's kind of similar, but it's a lot more action-oriented and stuff like that, check out Monster Hunter International.
Baron has been pushing that book pretty hard.
That's probably my favorite, urban fantasy series. That series rules.
What's chat saying? Never will never come.
Yeah, I mean, I love apocalyptic worlds. Where and I don't care what it is. I think it's in our DNA, where we were living in a high age, and then a great catastrophe happened, and now we're trying to reclaim things, and that's that goes through D&D from the very origins, and I like that aspect of you going through it, but I don't like it where science would necessarily dominate. But to be fair, a lot of the feeling was in the 1800s and the early 1900s that's why Atlantis was so popular. Is we love those stories, and yet even though my friends talk about this, if you listen to modern day era, they act like we've been on a linear path, ignoring the fact that even as a kid I learned that there were the dark ages where you have technology rises and then suddenly civilizations collapse, technology collapses, and then you bring your way back up. It's more of a sawtooth. But yeah, from an engineering standpoint, if you really enjoy, it's a dry read. It was a really, really dry read. But I have something called the Lost Technologies of Egypt, and they talk about the skill that was required. And I'm going, I can't get my contractors to do this kind of skill, and yet they had this at least 3,500 years ago.
God. Well, look at, even, I don't want to say they're built in modern history, but they kind of are compared to other stuff. Notre Dame, some of the major cathedrals in Europe, they're absolutely gorgeous. And the willingness to even try to build a couple of them were, had to be ball busters. Had to be ball busters to pull off, but they did it. Who was that? Ken Follett or something like that, who wrote The Pillars of the Earth?
I haven't read it, but
the whole novel is about basically a cathedral being built in London, and it's dry like Martin, but it's definitely worth reading. It's definitely worth reading at least once.
You guys mentioned the Black Company. I finished a book last week that was basically the Black Company in space. It was directly just a homage to the Black Company basically. And it's called Strange Company, and it's awesome. It basically reads like a Traveller campaign. If you Traveller, the tabletop RPG, Like
Yeah.
he basically read as a traveler campaign, like little bit gonzo. Like it was awesome. You should check it out.
I'll have to check it out. I was when I got into the sport I'm in. The first group I was with was called was called Black Company, which was based off the Glenn Cook novels. And part of the deal was you had to read. If you want to be part of the group, you had to read the novels. I'm like, not a problem, So I got into them. Then years later, when I got hold of was it Game of Thrones, the Song of Fire and Ice, not the first book, but it's like the last book in, where you meet the Gold Company. I'm like, what kind of bullshit is this?
Yeah.
But yeah, no novels. I mean, some novels I think, and this conversation has been kind of going everywhere, and I actually I love it when these conversations do. But a good novel, man, you remember a good novel over most things. You might not be able to remember everything, but you remember the experience reading it and so on. It's like Shadow with Conan. I mean, shit. He has a love affair with that novel like nobody's business, and I completely respect it because there's been a few books out there I feel the same way.
Well, and I just finished off one of the books because they're in public domain now, and so it makes it really easy to read if you can just look online and you don't mind reading on like a tablet. I one of the books, I like the style, but what I find interesting is, this was pulp. This was aimed at more of the younger kids. Look at the reading level that's required for it. It is higher than what you find in most of the stuff nowadays.
Is it really?
Yeah, go look at the phrases and wording and the vocabulary for it, and then go compare it. You'll find in which all these people that want to knock it. I said it's a higher just like all these people that complain about Gygax and high Gygaxian. I said, okay, so he improved my vocabulary. What's so wrong with that? I'd have to sit down with a dictionary and read it. I didn't mind that. The word charisma, I had never even heard that word until I started playing D&D, which admittedly I was 8 years old, but now people use it all over the place. And the same things with vampire, like celerity and protean and stuff like this. And they really dig into it. And it's like, okay, it's intended for someone that is college educated or college bound, but that doesn't make it any worse. In fact, a lot of times by using these words, it allows you a greater breadth instead of repeating the same things over and over.
Oh yeah. Shit. Sorry.
I don't mind novels with difficult words and weird prose, but if you're trying to explain rules to me, make them as concise as possible. And I'm sorry, Gygax fucking sucked at that, and English is my second language to begin with. So yeah, it takes me a little bit more effort to fucking decipher his mad scribblings. Sorry.
Well, no, Victor, that's a fair assessment, especially if it's your second language. But if it's your primary language, then you know what? It's aimed at a college level. That's what it is. But you're right. Me trying to read that, at some point I was tempted to get like the D&D version of Russian, and try looking through it because I want to learn Russian. So, I understand that aspect. But the other point is that usually the rules weren't as bad as I think that they are if you actually would sit down and read them. It's the descriptors that he would use, like dexterity. He didn't just use more common used words in English language. He used, I'll pick this one versus that word, or and I think that's one of the things that comes into it. And now you see everyone's starting to mix up stuff. But if you've ever read Vampire, I don't know if you have, go look at the different the powers, not necessarily in the descriptors and how to use them, but the powers are always a longer, less used word.
Yeah, celerity and stuff like that.
Exactly. But that's what I liked it for. Is I don't like it like I want the rules simple, but I like the name being the a college level name or something.
Yeah,
that's the way I like it.
It's not so much that he uses difficult words; it's just the way he writes. It's just I don't know. There's just something weird about it.
You know what it is? It's an old wargamer style of writing, and I agree with you. I think the modern D&D is easier to read, and I'm not knocking that, but I think that's how everyone wrote whenever they did that. If you ever read the old Avalon Hill, it's similar. So I don't think that it's that unusual for the group that he was hanging out with to use that style. But I understand why. And to be fair, I grew up on it as a kid, and so I never thought it was hard. It's just like when people said, "Oh, chess is hard." I'm like, I learned chess when I was 5, and it's the only reason that people said it was hard. The kids only thought it was hard because the parents would tell them it's hard. I taught all my friends how to play chess. We would play chess every morning before we went to school, and when we were 6 years old. So obviously, it's not that hard. It's hard to master, but to learn the rules, it's not that hard.
Well, we were talking about like the Black Company. The prose in those books is also kind of weird, and it actually, I read it the first time, and I like stopped at one point because it was just, I don't know, it was just giving me a headache, and then I picked it up again a couple of years later, and then I guess I learned more English, I guess, and I did fine. But like the prose in that is like, it's a little bit, I don't know, eccentric. So,
well, go for it. All right. Well, I was born with, not born, but I have a learning disability where reading is a bitch. Reading and math is a bitch. Speaking sometimes is a bitch, but that's a whole different subject. So reading to me was horrifyingly difficult as a kid. It took me forever to do it, but I'm stubborn enough. If I wanted to read something, I'd fucking read it. Mm-hmm. Now, my grandpa, being the intelligent goofball that he was, he's like, well, why don't I just throw a comic in front of him? He reads like a couple words out of the bubbles. He gets, but he's going to get more out of it. And that's really where my love comics came from that. I think that's why I'm a whole lot more lenient when it comes to comic book movies than other people are. But with that being said, these books, like Harry Potter, when Harry Potter came out, I didn't even know how to say fucking some of those people's names. Dumbledore? I was like, Dumbledore, until I saw the movies. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. So when I got into college and my level, I always read. I always had a book on me. I sucked at it. Not sucked. As difficult as it was, I always push through. That's just how I am. If anything is difficult, I'll just keep doing it until I get it done. But reading is one of the few things. I don't care how hard it is for you. Go find an Audible. Go find it. Go find somebody to read it to you. Fuck. There's been a few relationships where I just basically put my head on a girl's lap and let her read to me. And, it was just a cute little moment. But read. Fucking read. I cannot quote Kai enough. Pick up a fucking book. Don't be a fucking idiot and read. So it doesn't matter what you read. Just read something.
Well, Harry Potter has been spoiled for me. Not spoiled as in, like, I know what happens, but as in I've been assaulted with the physical book several times, so I'm not reading that.
Well, the funny thing is with me, because English is my second language, I would often read words before I heard them. So for like the longest time, if I wanted to say epitome, I would say epitome, because that's how it reads. Like, stuff like that. So, and then like somebody's like, no, it's epitome. I'm like, oh, okay.
You know what pisses me off is because so many of the words used in D&D, like Catrid column or whatever, right. I would see them, but no one ever actually says them. No. And then seeing these people like, haha, you don't know how to say this. I'm like, well, first off, if the person's mispronouncing it but using it in the proper context, that tells me that they're well read.
Yeah.
So why in the world thought of someone? That pisses me off, because I go, if they're well read, that means they're not dumb. It just means they don't know how to say a word. That's very different than misusing the word. And then the other part is, you talk about reading. My son reads a little bit, but what I've been able to get him to do, and I really enjoyed it, with the Neil Gaiman, Norse mythology graphic novels.
Oh, those are amazing.
The graphic novels, I'm like, look, the kid will read it. He'll get the same gist. And that's what I did for him. And I've heard that boys, for the most part, prefer visual. And that's why graphic novels really appeal to them. And I said, why in the world are you trying to make everything hard? It's the same thing that whenever I look at a book, and I know that we all talk about, our love of, when we first saw the stuff in first edition, I know like Shadow does. And I still have some of that feeling. But I'll be honest, nowadays, I don't want to buy a book if it doesn't have good artwork. Just period. I don't care what it is. I'm like, look, I like the visual aspect. I enjoy it. It gets, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Bring it up. My mind will race over and do all sorts of other stuff. Even if it has a book cover, and I still love, I've seen the different book covers that come out, but the book covers that when I was a kid in the 1980s, which had the scantily clad women for, John Carter of Mars, those are still my favorites. I like the artwork style better than any of the others I've seen before or after.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the book that I've promoted, I'll just say, every chance I get, which is Brave New World, has a very interesting cover, at least the copy that I have. And the art for that one is, again, interesting. But, I mean, it's not really what you need in a book. You're not looking for unless it's a book that's specifically, like, heavy on the art, like a comic book or a graphic novel. That's not what you're looking for.
You know what though is
I would prefer good writing to good art anytime.
Well, see, for me though, and they said this was true, especially of engineers, they want visuals, and I want visuals. I don't care what it is. Whatever book I was reading,
you can have the greatest visuals you want, but if you splotch a huge entire Twitter thread on top of it and call that dialogue, you're not going to get anything good.
No, well, yeah, but you need to have. It needs to be. But now you're just talking about bad writing. For me,
it has to be a good mix.
Both. Yeah, I mean, I want good artwork and good writing. You have to.
If I went to the library and I was just looking for books, like I would never like go there with like a specific book in mind. I would just look at the cover, it's like, oh, this looks interesting, or the title, like something in the title would catch me, and then I would like read the back, and it's like, yeah, that sounds fun, and then I would pick it. But there's always something that like catches your eye first, whether it be the cover or the title.
The title, the part on the back, and then maybe the first few pages are really what would get me to buy it more than the cover.
Okay.
But you would want all of those to be good.
I'm going to swing this from a different direction.
Oh, sure.
I cook for a living. That is my main bag. That's how I make my money. I cook for a living. And you're not going to get anything across anybody's lips unless it looks good. There's certain physical attributes it has to have before people eat it, before they'll say it tastes good. It has to look good. It has to be physically pleasing to the eyes. If you don't have that, it's not going to fucking sell. And the same scenario with books, or whatever. If the art doesn't catch your eye, you're not going to pick up the damn book. Second, then there's the smell of it, where the smell might be like the first two sentences of the opening page. It has to have enough there to give you the hook. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I fully agree with that. Well, here's the other thing, though. Almost all the books that I
as
buy,
much as I don't like him, he was fantastic.
I mean, almost all the books I buy are based off of my love, are recommended either through a source I like listening to or something like that. I mean, not that anyone's really seen this, but this comes back to, this has been out for hundreds of years and it's translated into English. But here's the interesting part. This is the description of when they went down the Amazon in the 1500s and talk about how the Amazon was populated full of these cities that had thousands and thousands of Indians in them. And yet when you listen to a lot of the modern people talk, they're like, oh, it was always like this. They're only primitive tribesmen. No, there weren't. They had massive cities in here with roads and developed agriculture. And, the Amazon was not an unpopulated, wild place like people think it was when they went down there. And, that's that. But the problem is that they went down the Amazon. They were the first ones to do it. And then the next group that did it was like 100 years later. And all the Indians had basically been wiped out from disease. So if anyone's ever watched, I love the series, was remember the series Life After People on the History Channel?
Oh God, I watched that. Yeah, I still watch that. I know what you're talking about.
You look at it is, within 100 years, it's amazing on what just disappears, especially in a tropical environment. Yeah. What was that one that they had with the the pyramids out there, and they didn't even realize that they were out there. And then they started doing the lidar. They said, "Oh, this area is much bigger than we thought it was, with all these different buildings and things like that." It's our. I guess this is going back to full loop. Is our our world was much more developed than we give them credit for, because everyone thinks that it was like this based off the 16 or 1700s, when that's not true. We have to go back, a long time ago and go, well, these people were very well advanced.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's, but this doesn't have any pictures in it, but I still love to hear the stuff. But when I was a kid, I loved biology books. Don't tell me what a dinosaur looks like. Draw it out for me. That's what I grew up with as a kid, and that's what I always wanted to see in all my books. The same thing.
Isn't it essential for an educational book?
What's that?
Isn't good and accurate visuals essential for an educational book, especially one relating to science? You can describe you can use an entire book to describe what a T-Rex looks like, but you're not going to get the same. You're going to get much more from a picture than that.
I had a teacher. And we were talking. She was trying to give lessons on dinosaurs, and I mentioned like meat-eating dinosaurs, and she was like, "There were no meat-eating dinosaurs." And everyone in the class, like, we were like 8 or something, and everyone's like looking at her like, "What the fuck, bitch?" Like, of course there were meat-eating dinosaurs. It's like, well, why would dinosaurs eat each other? They all ate plants, and like we were basically just all arguing with this dumb woman who was like our teacher, who refused to believe we were meat-eating dinosaurs.
I have more of an issue with that than I do with Black Ariel, the Little Mermaid, or whatever the show is called. Holy shit!
Oh, I do too. I mean, the thing is, I don't really care because it doesn't appeal to me. Well, The Little Mermaid did appeal to me when it came out when I was 15
I
or
don't
16.
think we should care.
It's
Just from a, perspective, who's on the side of the right or whatever dumb things you want to prescribe there. Why does anybody care? It's like, whoa, they're making another bad movie, and whoa, they're casting somebody who isn't the same skin color as the original actress, or not actress, the original character, because it was animated. Well, no, I don't care. Nobody should care. If
You
anything,
should care because it's part of a bigger thing. It's not about the movies. It's not about Hollywood. It's part of a bigger thing. It's part of a bigger push. But I gotta go soon. So
I didn't mean for us to go back there. I'm just the whole fucking dinosaur thing bothers me more than a fictional fucking character.
Hey, hey, Connell. It
Yeah.
gets better, because what Victor says happened to me when I was 8 years old, because I was huge into dinosaurs and I had all these dinosaur books.
Yeah.
And they asked us, "What is your favorite dinosaur?" And I said, "It's a Styracosaurus." They're like, "Oh, you mean it's a Stegosaurus?" "No, it's a Styracosaurus." Anyway, the teacher's like, "No, because it wasn't in our little list of them." I was angry, so I went home, and the next day I came over and I took my dinosaur book and I put it on her desk, and I opened up and said, "This is the dinosaur I like, not that one."
Hey, Victor, you have a good night, though, all the same. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having on, man. I will see you guys later.
Have a good morning, Victor, because I guess it's almost, 5?
Yeah, it's almost 7.
Okay.
7 even.
The fact that you keep American hours kills me.
Yeah. I'm not even going to bed, but I just have other engagements. So
No. I get it.
Yeah.
Hang out with cooler people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll see you guys later. Bye.
Take care, Victor.
Bye.
But no, what got me, oh my God. Okay, and I'm not I am making fun of this church. There is a Christian subsect of the Christian church around here that don't believe in dinosaurs. They believe that the devil put the dinosaur bones into the ground to make man stop believing in God.
What about big lizards? If big lizards that all died like 1 million years ago challenges your faith, you aren't very faithful, are you?
Oh, I get you on that, Jack. I don't. I mean, there's a lot of that. The other part that I look at is, and this is the problem I have with it. You're really talking about the metaphysical, and you want to argue about the things that really don't matter. That's what bothers me a lot of times whenever they do religion, and the atheists do the same things. They want to attack those things. Okay, but at no point are you actually dealing with the underlying aspect of improve your life or what is it telling you to do things. You know,
Mhm.
if you actually listen to a lot of atheists, they're almost hedonistic rather
Oh,
than
they
rather
are very hedonistic.
rather than being introspective. And I said, if whenever I hear them talk about religion, is at what point is religion making your life easier? And what I mean by easier is not. It's usually telling you you have to be willing to suffer and work hard, but it's giving you a path in your life to deal with the negative aspects of life. Whereas a lot of times atheism is dealing with the part of how to make yourself happy, but not how to deal with the negative parts of your life of when life does come down and
Exactly.
kick you in the ground repeatedly. um,
Oh no, yeah, you're entirely correct. Absolutely. That's I mean that's the thing most people just don't talk about for some reason, but it's massive.
Yeah, man, there's a lot of things going on right now that I just think is. I mean, everybody has their own agenda, and I get that. And I have this theory that I think a culture gets so big. Let's say America. America is the youngest country out there, one of the youngest countries out there. I don't know if it's still the youngest, but it's definitely one of the
No,
youngest
no,
countries. Right.
I mean, obviously, you wouldn't consider like France to be the newest country just because it's the Fifth Republic, but countries like North Korea and I mean, I wouldn't say Germany either, but a lot of new countries like Ukraine, North Korea, the Baltic states, those are all countries, even Finland, are all countries that are a lot newer than the United States. But it's the newest large country.
Right. It is isn't it the biggest country in the world?
Third.
That's not the
Russia.
point I'm trying to get at. The
That's
point is that
and yeah.
there's other countries that have gone through a lot of countries have gone through a whole lot more shit than we have. We are just now hitting what 200-300 years.
Yeah.
Roughly.
Well,
Mhm.
as far as culture wise, this is the thing that I think people forget. Culture wise, the United States is very young. Well, almost all the countries in the New World are.
Right.
Like, people can talk about Ukraine, but you generally have their culture goes back hundreds and hundreds of years that predates the United States.
Yeah, like would you say Hungary is the one of the newest countries just because its current government is very new, or would you say it's a like 100-year-old country because only gained full independence after World War I, or would you say it's one of the oldest countries because the idea of Hungary has existed for hundreds of years?
I would say that Hungary is an old. Well, you have to look at the ethnic aspect of Hungary. Is
Yeah,
Hungary has an aspect that goes back hundreds of years, and you have
yeah,
to
that's what
look
I
at it,
was
which
gonna say.
is, that's whether you like it or not. The United States is, you get because I love Hungary. If anyone goes to Europe, my recommendation is go to Eastern Europe, and Hungary is one
Yeah,
of my top ones that I like.
Yeah.
Um,
once I go to Vienna, every other European country I want to go to is Eastern.
Yeah, well, and that the problem I've noticed is, and I hate saying this, is that the Europeans, and I'm going to not necessarily the normal Europeans, but the governments have pretty much rejected what it is to be German or Italian or French, whereas Hungary has
Yeah.
embraced it, Poland has embraced it, Russia has embraced it. They embrace on who and what they are, whereas
Yeah, that's what I like about nationalism. It's I mean, you could say it's a dividing force, but only in multi-ethnic empires. I mean, countries that completely reject their nationality, that's not a good thing, and it shouldn't be celebrated.
no, and I think that anyone from any country should theoretically they should say this is the best country, and then they say why it is their best country. The problem is that we've got this self-flagellation where, oh well, we've done so well, we should punish ourselves, and you should be feel guilty for it. I went, why? If you're a successful society, you should embrace it, and you should embrace the part that made you successful, and then correct the parts that are bad, but don't treat everything as bad. It's the
Oh yeah.
it's just like Hollywood. I hate saying this is, um, a lot of us, the story wise, you can listen to it. they've rejected everything that was taught before. No one has to like Shakespeare, but you do have to understand the story structure and how stories are told. And when you reject that aspect and you say, well, I'm just going to write whatever I care about, it doesn't make your stories compelling. You don't have believable characters. You don't have story arcs. You've given up on all of that aspect. And that's why things are so bad. When I watch movies, I'm like, why am I even watching this?
No, I can get behind that. I mean, the shows I watch, I mean, I am watching, I'm sure some will give me a little bit of shit about this. I am watching She-Hulk because I used to read the comic books, and they do feel like the comic books to me. They feel the She-Hulk was kind of a stupid comic book, and they knew it was a stupid comic book, and she broke the fourth wall all the damn time, and that's what they're doing on the show.
Okay, well, I mean, but this is the thing I look at is I look at stuff and I hear, and to be fair, I like listening to Critical Drinker, and I go, okay, what does he think of it?
Yeah,
I'll listen to a few different people about it, but I also want to laugh. But She-Hulk was never intended for me in the first place. I'm not a big superhero fan.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, no, I get that. And I'm watching this one, and I'm like, She-Hulk is. I'm like, I can get behind the show. It's kind of fun. It's stupid, and moving on with my life. Fucking Power, the Rings of Power. Thank you, Amazon, for shitting the bed yet again.
Oh man,
yeah. They've made good shows, and then everything else is just God. It's awful.
If you give that name, if you say this is not a token storyline, and change a couple of the names, it would be a very interesting fantasy story. I will give it that. It's dragging its fucking ass, but it'd be a very interesting story. But the moment this is supposed to be the second age of Middle Earth. No, that's not right. That's not right. That's not right. Who the fuck is? Who, what the, and all this and that. And I'm like, it's killing me. And I'm not even a Token fan.
If Tolkien was supervising it, or if he had written something and it was based on that, then I get it. But the problem is, that's not true. It's not based on his works. They just decided, what if we just continue the story, but just kind of make it well, what if we just continue the story just because we want to make some money and push our agenda as on the sidelines? What if we just do that? And it doesn't make sense. Just make up a new story. You've already written it. You don't need to piggyback off of someone else's success. Just go ahead, write your own story, sell it, pitch it, and if it doesn't get anywhere, well, don't attach somebody else's name to it just to make it work.
Well, I'm gonna bring up what they could have done, and I know Ye Old Geek talked about this. Was why don't you set it up in an area that hasn't been explored? Like a perfect place to be would have been Gondor and the Hadirem, where you could have put it where no one would have argued about them being black or Asian or anything else, because that was that area. And apparently there was a big, feud on that. You could make a more interesting story. It's expanding the world without destroying the original characters. And that to me was, that you have actually, a space there.
There is a character. There's two characters in the Ring of Power I'm actually somewhat enjoying. I'm surprised at this. Elrond. I'm enjoying Elrond because as much as he was aloof in the book, he's that much of that way in the fucking show. They got that character right on. And what was the other character I really enjoyed? Oh, wait. The credits.
Oh, okay. but I mean, you could also do cameos of these main characters coming in and just touch for an episode and bring them out. And you could have done that and people would have loved it. I would have loved it personally, which I think would have been cool, is if they had focused on the Witch King Angmar and Weathertop in that area during the time, for Gondor. There's a lot that they could have done that would have stayed within canon, but was never well explored, and it would have given them a lot of breadth to go out there. They could have kept the framework, but it gives them a lot more to work with. And people, if you take established characters that people love, you have to treat them with such reverence and respect that it makes it much harder as a writer if you want to write your own stories. But if you take it in an area that's adjacent without actually going in there, you have a lot more freedom, but it's familiar enough in the world that people are willing to. I mean, we don't,
Right.
not that I'm a huge fan of it, but like The Mandalorian. The
Oh,
Mandalorian.
Mandalorian, in my opinion, is fucking great. Only because they don't really touch. I mean, they touch the other subjects, but they haven't really touched the other subjects. They're often doing their own damn thing.
Exactly, and because they have the freedom, you don't have the people fighting as much with the fans. You're appealing to both a new audience and your old fan base, and that's who you want.
Right.
Mostly
You know,
because it's good, but you're also getting in some of that like prequel trilogy type stuff from expanding on the Mandalorians, but you're also getting the original trilogy guys because not only does it take place in that time period, but it's just straight up good. And well, I would say that you're also getting the sequel trilogy guys, but they don't exist, and if they do exist, we don't want them anyways.
The trilogy, the first trilogy wasn't that bad. The second trilogy, there's a certain way to look at it, and I've yet to figure out a way that is.
He's actually it's decent. Yeah, some of the weird Anakin stuff is kind of weird, where it's like Padme's a weird like mother figure, and then the next movie, Anakin's stalking her in a weird way. That's weird. Second movie,
Just
funny
Freudism.
Sand. You're smoother than Sand, milady. This is a funny movie. Let's watch it and then just laugh at how dumb it is because George Lucas is a very good writer when it comes to romance. And then the third movie is genuinely really good.
you know what? If you don't mind subtitles, there's a Russian that I've really liked, set in about the 1700s, called Gogol.
Sounds familiar.
And the premise is that Gogol is a writer, but he has psychometry. So when he touches things, he sees visions of what happened.
Oh God.
And they're trying to figure out who's killing off all these young village girls.
Right.
Well, I think they're like, they're like in their late teens or so. Anyway, they're killing them off, and so he's going to investigate, and he has to deal with witches and ghosts and the Black Rider, and it's really cool. I've enjoyed it.
Cool.
But and this is one of the reasons I sometimes like foreign films, especially like if you ever watch Night Watch. Night Watch is another one I recommend watching. Is they just have a weird. They don't see things through the American lens, and you can tell that whenever you watch the films. It's a darker. It's different.
I tend to like movies and shows that are not using the American lens, to be honest. But I'm an asshole.
Well, no. The problem that I have with it in some cases is I've seen it done all the time. I like to see a different viewpoint. The other problem is I sometimes like to see things that are grittier, and sometimes, like if anyone has ever watched the first Hellraiser.
God, yeah.
I mean, Clive Barker has nothing in similar with a lot of the others. And to be fair, a lot of horror films are that way when they first start off, is they have not put so much Hollywood money and budget behind it, so they have to be more innovative with some of the storylines and things. And, characters, you're like, boy, that's really creepy because it isn't anything like I've seen before.
Oh yeah, no, I completely. Hell, that series is even getting a reboot.
I haven't seen the new trailer. I haven't.
They have a woman Pinhead, which I'm annoyed and slightly amused by all at the same time. Yeah, just like I said, mildly amused and annoyed all at the same time. It's a weird feeling. But hey, guys, I appreciate you. I appreciate Victor showing up and Mr. Al and Jack. I appreciate you all showing up. I appreciate the people in chat. But I do have to be up stupid early tomorrow.
Yeah, I have to be up by 6:45 tomorrow, so I get sleep in instead of getting up at 4:30. But I had a nap after work.
So
thank you. Good talking to you.
Good talking to you. We have to do this again. I enjoy our conversations. I really do. So next time we all will see each other is this Sunday, which for everybody who's in chat, come check us out this Sunday. We will be talking about the Harrison Ford Blade Runner. I don't know which versions of these movies that these people are watching, because there are more than there should be, but will be talking about it this coming Sunday. And it will be me, it will be Shadow, it will be Young Jack here. Omanau, I believe you're joining us.
I hope so, as long as my voice holds out somewhat.
Right. And Mark. And we'll be talking about the book. And that's what's coming on Sunday. And this coming Wednesday, I will be hosting Gatekeepers, where we will be talking about time traveling and not to shit in the bed of the time stream.
Okay,
That's what
Connell,
we'll be talking about. Yes.
Connell, just one thing. If you're going to do that before, have you watched Babylon 5?
I am watching it. I'm trying to get past season 1, but it's basically pretty much in protest.
Okay, well, the reason I mention it is there is a time travel portion in there at the end of season 1, and they tie it back into season 3.
Oh, okay, I have to check it out. When I get there, I have to check it out.
Okay.
Yeah, I think sci-fi. I think time traveling is definitely an interesting concept. I know it's not a lot of people have issues with it, but it's in sci-fi movies, it's in sci-fi novels, it is in fantasy, so we will be talking about it.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, you have a good night.
Babylon
You too.
5. I used to think Babylon 5 and 5 Gum were connected.
Well, are they?
Why?
I want Firefly and Babylon to be connected and Babylon 5 to be the bad people. Moving on. So, with that being said, everybody have a good night.
God bless.